Hello and welcome to Creativity TV.
On today's show, guest designer Jo Austin creates a best of British themed decorated frame with a crackle glaze technique.
This technique is brilliant. You paint your base coat and allow it to dry before the crackle glaze is painted over it. Once this dries, another coat of colour is applied and cracks and peels start to appear. Let's take a look.
2012 has got to be the year, I think. We've got the Jubilee celebrations, we've also got the Olympics. And the Best of British range is fantastic to celebrate both of those. So everything British that I could find in the Best of British range, I've popped on to this little picture frame. And the technique I want to share with you today is the crackle glazing technique, which complements the Best of British range really well. So to create the picture frame, what I've done is I've taken a photo frame. It was just a plain wood one, and I've sanded it down on the edges to take that varnish off. I've already started doing this one already. And what I've done is I've taken my little palette and I've put in some acrylic paints. So these are the Artiste acrylic paints, and I've used cherry red for the base. We just paint that on. And it might seem like it takes a long time to actually create the crackle glaze effect, but it doesn't really. So just paint on a thin layer of your acrylic paint. Don't forget to paint the little lip on the inside as well, and also the outside edge. To speed up the process, we can dry our paint with a Paper Mania heat gun. We then need to add a layer of the crackle glaze. So I'm using the Artiste acrylic paint crackle glaze medium. And it's just like a very thin, clear wet varnish. So again, I popped it into my palette. And I'm just going to paint a thin layer across the front of my frame. I find that the crackle glaze effect works better if you're painting long strokes down the side of your frame and then just flick your brush from side to side, just to create slightly different brush strokes. Now again, what we can do with that is to set it with a heat gun just to dry it out. To create the top layer of the paint effect, we need to go over with the white. Now this can be any colour. I just like the whitewash effect, the sort of vintage look of the white on a colour underneath. So I've taken the blank, plain white Artiste acrylic paint, and this is what I'm going to use for the rest of the frame. So I'm going to paint in quite a thick layer onto the frame all the way around. You don't need to be too specific with it. It doesn't matter if you've got little areas of red showing underneath. All we need is a nice thick layer. So we're going to make it a lot quicker. We can heat it up with the heat gun. And if you go quite slowly around your frame, you'll notice those little cracks start to emerge. So there's the crackle on your frame. If you haven't got a heat gun or you've got a little bit more time, you can actually leave it to dry overnight, and those cracks will appear just a little bit wider, which will reveal more of the red paint underneath. But I quite like the dainty crack effect on there. I think it looks really nice. So to finish this frame off, we're just going to place it down. Just open your little metal sections at the back. And I've got a little panel that I've painted. Now this is the back section of the photo frame where your photo would sit on the underneath of here. And I've just gave it a little crackle effect around the side. So red again, exactly the same as before, then a layer of the crackle glaze, and then a layer of the white. We don't need to worry too much about this centre section because that's going to be covered with paper. So we can pop that into our frame. And now we're ready to decorate the inside. So for the elements on the inside of the frame, I'm going to use some of the papers and some of the elements from the decoupage sets. The first thing that I've done is I've measured across the frame, and I've taken a piece of card round about 1 centimetre inside, so I can still see my crackle glazing on the inside of the frame there. And I'm just going to stick this on with double-sided tape. So that card section is going to sit on the inside. And then I've just taken some paper out of the decoupage set and I've cut it so I've got a thin border of a contrast at the bottom, but mainly white at the top. This is just going to make my decoupage stand out a little bit more. This paper can now sit centrally into this middle panel. And all we need to do now is decorate it. So my little beefeater is going to stand at the bottom nice and proud. And then I've got my little soldier, my little sentry guard, and again just build him up as his decoupage. And this little chap is going to sit on the other side. I can then finish it off with some of the extra little embellishment die cuts. So I've just taken 2 of the Union Jack hearts. And these are going to sit at the top part of my frame, just to hold my bunting in place. I've then got my greetings. So of course you need a greeting as well. So this is going to sit one at the top. And I've got one to go down at the bottom. And there's my little frame.
This technique gives a really good antique look to your project. I think it's best to use contrasting colours like Jo has shown to let the cracks really show up.
You could also try closer match colours though, particularly if you want a really subtle look, perhaps on a vintage project for example.
Talking of vintage, Docrafts demonstrator and Creativity Club member Christine Saunders has sent us in this lovely shabby chic card using one of the Creativity Club downloads. I particularly like that this card has tags enclosed, which can be used to put special messages on, or they could be a gift. These little cuties would also make handy bookmarks or a card topper.
Thanks for showing us, Christine. If you've been inspired by today's show, then send us an email at tv@docrafts.com and your project may get featured on a future episode of Creativity TV.
You can also find the details of how to make the projects from today's show right here in the Creativity Club.
Until next time, happy crafting.